Hey guys, welcome to the Prime Man podcast brought to you by Unshakable Habits. I am your host, Stephen Box, and today we're going to be talking about something that is very relevant to the new year, and that is goal setting. And specifically, I'm going to talk today about why your goals might not be working out for you. Before we jump into that, I do have a couple of quick pieces of business I need to handle today. So number one, I did go out of town for a week and got a little behind on some stuff, so I didn't put a new episode out. I know it's been a little bit since you guys heard from me, so just wanted to let you know why I wasn't here last week, but also say I hope that you had a great holiday as well. So with that being said, you guys might have noticed a little change that we got going on. This is now the Prime Man podcast. And the reason for this is very simple. I just wanted to create some new branding that was a little bit more in alignment with my goal of specifically helping middle-aged men to build better habits for health, relationships, and career. And I think by really highlighting the fact that this podcast is helping men maximize their prime by calling it the Prime Man podcast is a little bit more in alignment. I love the Unshakable Habits branding. It's still the name of my coaching business, so I still love that, but just wanted to make a little quick change. The other thing I have for you guys today is I want to give you a little bit of a heads up. I am going to be featured on the 6 a.m. Run podcast this coming Tuesday, so I hope you guys will check out that interview. I really enjoyed it. I feel like there was a lot of great insights about my story, and the host, Mark, asked some really fantastic questions. So I think you guys will get some new information about me and some of my philosophies. All right, with that being said, guys, let's jump into this, because I'm going to start off with something very controversial. Goal setting isn't the primary key to success. In fact, it might be the reason that many of us feel stuck or unfulfilled. It's understandable that you might believe otherwise. After all, you've been taught that having clear, defined goals provides direction and motivation. But think about a professional athlete. If they just set a goal to win a championship, but then they missed practice, they didn't listen to their coach, they didn't get enough sleep, they weren't doing the things that they had to do, would they actually achieve their goal of winning a championship? Probably not, right? So what about you? What goals have you set that you didn't achieve? How did you feel afterwards? Were you frustrated? Less confident in your abilities? Did you have a realization that you neglected other parts of your life while chasing that goal? And did that then create guilt and things like that afterwards? Well, here's the good news. If any of that sounds familiar, you don't have to feel that way anymore. I want you to listen up, because I'm about to give you the number one strategy that no one is talking about, because they're all too busy talking about goal setting. Creating non-negotiables. So first of all, let's talk about what exactly is a non-negotiable. It's an action that is aligned with your core values that you can maintain consistently no matter the circumstances. You guys have heard me talk about this before. This is why I named my company Unshakable Habits, because I believe in creating habits that stick no matter what. And that's exactly what non-negotiables are all about. But they're not just habits, and we're going to touch on this here in a little bit. But because they are aligned with your core values, they have a huge built-in advantage over goals. They're already attached to your purpose or sense of self. You don't have to go out and manufacture some bigger why for this goal. Okay? Now, there are two types of non-negotiables I want to talk about today. They're general and specific. General non-negotiables are large categories, such as making time for your health, Specific non-negotiables are non-negotiables that occur at a regular interval. Might be daily, weekly, monthly, or any other time frame that you want to use. And they're more niched down inside of the general category. So for example, our general category is make time for health. The more specific non-negotiable is daily intentional movement or exercise. And we can even make it more specific and say at least 30 minutes a day. Now, there are pluses and minuses to getting that specific, and we'll talk about that here shortly. So hopefully at this point, you're clear on the different types of non-negotiables and why they're more powerful than just goals alone. So I'm not telling you don't set goals. I'm just telling you that you need to have non-negotiables as part of the equation. But let's go ahead and lay out some steps for you here to talk about how you can start creating your own non-negotiables. Step 1, self-reflect on your values. Guys, you wouldn't start a trip without knowing where you want to go and how to get there. Creating your non-negotiables is the same. Take some time to reflect on your core values. If you're somewhere where you can pause, go ahead and do it now. Think about what matters the most in life. For now, just keep it general. So keep those categories nice and broad: health, family, career success, personal growth, etc. Once your core values are identified, think about the habits that directly support these values. So as an example, if health is a core value, a relevant non-negotiable might include regular exercise, or a balanced diet, or adequate sleep. Okay, so that's step 1. We're going to self-reflect on those values, figure out what is really important to us, and we're going to put it into those categories. Step 2 is to evaluate your current lifestyle and responsibilities. So consider your current commitments: work, family, social responsibilities, and think about how your time is dedicated to those things right now. Because it's important to understand how much time and energy you can realistically dedicate to a new habit. And if we don't really have a good understanding of where we are now, it's not going to get us where we want to go, right? It's going back to the analogy of taking a trip here. It does no good to have a GPS in your car. It doesn't matter how nice the GPS is. If your location is turned off and you don't know where you are and the GPS doesn't know where you are, it can't tell you how to get where you're going. You have to know your starting point. All right, step 3, plan and commit to consistency. All right, so based on the assessment that you did in step 2, you are going to set achievable and realistic non-negotiables. So earlier I said we're going to revisit the idea of the pluses and the minuses of getting really specific. And here's where we're going to do this. Traditional goal setting would tell us that we always have to set specific actions. So 30 minutes of daily exercise, or set aside an hour to spend with the kids every Saturday. And setting these time blocks can be useful in planning our schedule, and they make it easier to carve out the time we need. However, it's also important to acknowledge that life is unpredictable. It's crucial to build in some flexibility to adapt non-negotiables as needed without feeling guilty or feeling like you failed. Okay, so in that case, it can sometimes work better to leave your non-negotiables somewhat open, flexible. Such as doing 3 days of strength training every week might be the non-negotiable that you set. Another example is to set specific time blocks but have a backup plan in place just in case something happens. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say you set a non-negotiable to spend 30 minutes writing every morning after the kids go to school. So obviously in this example, you're someone who has to write, whether you're a writer or content marketer or whatever, right? Well, if when your kids get sick and they're at home, it's probably going to be difficult for you to sit down and spend your 30 minutes writing. So in that situation, you may just have to commit to writing for as long as you can until something else comes up, or have an alternative time of day, like say maybe when your spouse gets home and you can have them take care of the kid to actually do your writing. So when I go through these, I just want to make sure you guys are really getting the most out of this. So I'm going to just repeat these really quick for you. So step one is self-reflect on your values, right? Remember, we want to keep this really general for right now, things like health, family, career success, personal growth. And we want to kind of think about it from that standpoint. And then we're going to start to think about what are the habits that we need to incorporate in order to start to live out those values. So if your value is health, maybe that's regular exercise. If it's family, maybe it's certain times that you want to spend with your family or certain activities that you want to do with your families. If it's career success, then what are the things that you need to do at work? If it's personal growth, then what kind of things are you going to do for personal growth? Are you going to read books or whatever? So start to think about some of the specific activities there. Then evaluate where you are now. Get a good idea of how you can make time for this, okay? And I'm going to talk more about that here in just a second, by the way. And step 3 is to plan and commit to being consistent. Because based on that assessment, I want you to set some achievable and realistic non-negotiables, but play around with the flexibility piece of this, right? You can maybe get really specific on your time blocks, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and see how that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, maybe try getting a little less specific and see does, just the idea of I'm going to go do a workout or I'm going to do some kind of movement or exercise every day. See if that's specific enough for you. See if that works for you. Some people, they're not going to be able to do that. They need that like structure in there. Totally cool. Try it both ways and see what works for you. All right, guys. So before I get ready to wrap up today's episode, I do want to go over a couple of objections or concerns that I will sometimes get from clients. So number one, it can feel like you just don't have room on your schedule for even one more thing. And I get it. My schedule's pretty packed too. That's the beauty of non-negotiables, is that they help you get clarity on what's important and what's not as important. Okay, it makes it easier to say no to things or find ways to remove less important tasks from your priority list. Ultimately, something has to come off the list. Okay, if you're going to achieve big things, you've got to make time for these new habits to be in there. And that means that you got to take something off the list. Non-negotiables make that choice simpler. Second objection I'll get a lot of times is that it can feel rigid. That people worry about, having all these set items on my list is going to take all the fun out of life or whatever. And let's be honest, guys. Most of us already have a to-do list that prevents us from doing a lot of the things that we really want to do. So when you create your non-negotiables, it fills your list up with things that you actually want to do. Things that are important to you. If anything, it's actually going to make life better, not worse. So I hope that you guys see the value in setting these non-negotiables. Because if you start to break this down and you start to look at what are some of my really big non-negotiables, like what are things I might do like once or twice a year, like say take 2 weeks of vacation or whatever. What are the things that I need to do monthly or maybe quarterly, right? And then monthly. And then what are the things I need to do weekly? And then what are the things I need to do daily? Because when you start to get into this habit of every single day, you're doing something that's going to help you grow, to help you achieve those goals that you have. Oh man, you would be absolutely amazed at the impact that can have on your life, especially when you get those things in alignment with your values. And when those things become non-negotiables, they're no longer a goal that would be nice to achieve, but if something else comes up, you're okay pushing it to the side. Non-negotiables are just that. They're non-negotiable. So, with that, guys, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to offer you something special. If you are ready to finally transform your habits and create a personalized roadmap for success, I'm here to help. I invite you to book a free roadmap call with me. This is your chance to discuss your goals, your challenges, and how to effectively integrate these non-negotiables into your life for lasting change. All you have to do is visit unshakablehabits.com or click the link in the episode description to schedule your free call. And as always, guys, I remind you that while none of us are born unshakable, we can all become unshakable. We'll see you back next week.